like and subscribe. Now, girls of Reddit, what is the hardest thing to explain to a man's the race against time when coming out of the shower when you are on your period? Related, momentarily forgetting you're on your period after showering and drying that region real good with a towel and then looking down and thinking FKKKK, and for some reason you thought a large fuzzy white bath rug was a good idea. Our position or motion during sex can feel good one moment and then hurt the next moment, shifts around. Different times of the month too. The cervix drops as women get closer to their period. The fact that a pad sticks to the end is not the cooches. That one is always a good one. Another good one is when the brightest ones learn there are 3 holes. That having sex for too long can be incredibly uncomfortable. We often don't want to go for hours, and doing so can cause lots of tears and soreness that isn't wanted. Is that tears as in crying, or tears as in rips? As in rips, little micro tears that burn/hurt for a day or so. Gynecological care is a lot more than just pregnancies and delivering babies. Hell, I wish more gynes realize this. That hormonal birth control has a lot more influence on our life than you might think. It affects our mood, weight, might cause depression, and still nobody seems to care, and kills your sex drive. Yup, these pills that make sex safe make me not want to have sex. The sheer fear and possibilities of what could go wrong during childbirth and how it feels to be pregnant. It's a bit terrifying to me. That period cramps can cause some women excruciating pain, especially when they have medical conditions like ovarian cysts, endometriosis, etc. I literally have to call in sick at work because I cannot stand up from the pain. Thank God my supervisors are women, and my mom has to go to the hospital when she gets her period cause she loses so much blood every time. I remember as a young girl laying in bed curled up from the pain of period cramps. My mom was trying to console me and give me painkillers to go to class, and my brother walks by and says, like a brat, she's faking it to just get out of school. I know other girls and they don't complain about periods like this. I was so pissed. Like, good for those girls, but we aren't all the same. A-hole. I even snapped back, and I remember my mom being mad at me about snapping back, but not my brother undermining my pain. Thinking back to it still pisses me off. I'm hoping by now, maybe 12 over 13 years later, and married, he thinks different. Your relatives talk about your boobs. That's strange. When I started to develop, it seemed like I went from flat to a C cup overnight. Had the lovely experience of everyone pointing it out, but no one took me to buy a damn bra. I had to figure that out on my own. My dad also started calling me tits, jokingly, which totally didn't give me a complex, or make me insecure, or feel objectified at all. Disclaimer, my parents were aging alcoholics. Results may vary. Eater. Oh god. This is my top voted comment. Since this resonated, I'll add. They've now been sober for around 10 years. I fully support cutting off toxic/abusive family. I did for a long time. Mine just happened to get better. Remember though, parents, your kids internalize a lot more than you realize. Also, thank you everyone. My younger self would have been happy to know she wasn't just being too sensitive for going off about those comments. My family has always made comments about my body. I'm 30 now, and just last year my dad told me I was getting a belly when I was sitting down. I am 5 feet 4, weigh 120 and very active. It was my organs. It's exhausting. Your vagina doesn't change with each sexual partner, it doesn't get bigger, and the roast beef that men always use to describe women who have had too much sex is just how some women's labias look naturally. Our labia does not change based on our sexual experience. It is outside of the vaginal opening. There is no way for a penis to change it or stretch it. It's just there. Some women have smaller, some bigger, some pink, some brown, some uneven. Just like sex doesn't whittle down a man's penis, it does not expand a vagina. That it's easy to catch you staring at us, like you couldn't make it more obviously staring right at my tits or my A. How difficult it is that none of our pants have usable pockets. That I can be mad without it being that time of the month. That having a C-section isn't the easy way out of giving birth. Sometimes it's life-saving to the mom and baby, and comments like that fuel postpartum depression. My wife and I have 3 kids. Two were natural births and the youngest was an emergency C-section. In her words, a C-section was the easiest birth, but the absolute hardest recovery. There's no easy way to give birth. C-section sounds just as difficult or even more difficult. My aunt described her experience with a C-section, and I was shocked. She said she saw them put her organs on the table to get the baby out. I couldn't imagine. She also described her natural birth to me as well, and I was just, how do you do it? I'm terrified of having a baby now, lol. When I say just like that, I do not mean now go harder and faster. The worst is when she says that when I'm going hard and fast and only have about 2 seconds of an aerobic power left. Keep going. No pages left. When you fart and it rolls up into your vagina, I call them fart rollups. Exit through the gift shop. Oof, this got me good. Oh my gosh. My sister and I call them flats because they rattle through your labia. I'm picturing the look on the men's faces as they ponder this. Boobs actually weigh quite a bit. I'm not exactly a small person and I'm on the bigger side. However, I have a larger than average chest. Breasts can weigh quite a bit depending on how big they are and can cause serious back pain. There is quite literally nothing sexually stimulating about inserting a tampon, and pulling out a dry one is even worse. Shudders, or you can't insert it properly and have to pull it out and get a new tampon. But the first one took all the moisture away, so now you're trying to shove/push a cotton ball up your dry vagina. Hurts. How much PMS actually affects us, and for me personally, it comes a week or 2 before my actual period begins. It's so stressful and super annoying to deal with. A lot of the crappy moods that are associated with periods only show up a day or 2 before the period for me. I'll wake up, discover I'm bleeding, and kinda just go, well, that explains it. I explained it as you get 1 week where you feel normal, it goes period week, normal week, horny week, and then PMS week. I say weeks, but of course everyone has slightly different cycle lengths, and also presuming normal cycles. I have endo and here's how my life goes. Week 1, recovering from my period, very tired, very constipated. Week 2, ovulating, in a lot of pain, adhesions pulling if I sit too long. Week 3, PMS, crying over everything, feeling so sensitive and breakable that I once burst into tears because a coworker who's basically my work mom gave me a friendly touch on the shoulder. Have to sit very carefully because otherwise I'm too uncomfortable to live. Cry over his cute raccoons. Week 4, bleeding with no predictability on how bad it will be. Is it light, medium, heavy, all at once? I don't get cramps as much anymore, but I have a lot of scarring on my right ovary, and it hurts like a toothache, but like in my hip. So nauseous, so very nauseous. Have had to run off the train to puke. Poop constantly. When I started med school, one of the most surprising things to me was how insane female anatomy and the cycle is. First of all, the hormone system is just way more weird and complex than for us simple men. Unsurprisingly, whenever nature has to engineer a positive feedback loop, things get kind of wacky tbh. And when you want to have a big event happen, like an ovulation, an orgasm, etc., you need positive feedback loops for some value to jump off the scale chart. So that's one thing. And bless the pituitary for being able to figure that shout. But the effing open access makes me want to hold my head. The open access going from the scary outside world, in through vagina, cervix, uterus, and straight out of the fallopian tubes and technically straight into the abdominal space. That is absolutely insane. Thing about it is, the body is essentially a big donut with mouth and A being the middle. The inner side of the tunnel, the gastrointestinal tract, is technically in contact with the outside world, whether that's the food and digestion, the bacteria, or a condom full of coke that you swallowed. You need protection from that. So it has all the cool layers with epithelium and glands and fat layers, nerves and so on, so that invaders don't just waltz right in. Going in through the vagina is like an insane backdoor. You go through the fallopian tubes, and if you ignore the planetary ovary structure that's there in the doorway, you're into the castle. All the normal layers are ignored. So weird. Then probably the most weird to me is, even back in high school you might be taught about apoptosis and necrosis. Apoptosis is the nice calm and planned packing down of the cell and disposing of the neatly packed parts in the right reusability containers. Necrosis is when shit goes wrong, like air isn't reaching the tissue, so toxic byproducts of metabolism melt through their containers and the power plant implodes. It isn't supposed to happen. It's like an arsonist destroying the whole thing. You can try to do it sometimes, if, like, you're trying to pull off an insurance scam, but you risk taking down the whole block and killing everyone you love. Basically sane people don't do it, except the effing uterus. Every effing round, it just builds a new layer of total tissue, with spiraling arteries supplying the whole thing, and when it's done, it just lets the arteries wither and the tissue necrose, and throws the whole bloody chaos out the hole and moves on, like a child soldier patting up a mass grave moving on to the next city in a post-apocalyptic nightmare. Of course it's a beautiful and wondrous mechanism as well, but it is a little strange to me. The feeling of a huge period blood clot slowly slime out and plop right into a wet warm pad. Even worse, sneezing. Your mouth isn't the only thing sneezing. I sneezed in the shower during one of my first periods as a young teenager, and I thought I was dying. And be so thick and covered in mucus that it doesn't seep into the pad point, and you won't know until you sit down. Good times. Our maxi pad companies try so hard to make it easier, but nothing can prepare them for Clotzilla. Then it squishes out forward, and you pray that the front of the pad is forward enough as you slide back into your seat and try and catch it like some kinda fed up jellyfish catching this, and also the sudden gush of a puddle of blood, and the OF I have to get to a toilet right now feels cause either that blood has gone off the pad and soaked my knickers, or my tampons leaked. I call it giving birth to a jellyfish. Period cramps, and all the other symptoms, like a few others said. Most times it's absolutely debilitating for me. It's nice when guys don't act repulsed by it lol, or like we are playing it up for attention. Thanks so much for the awards. Mine always felt like my entire lower back was being crushed in a great big vice, and that was just the back. Hard to describe the front cramps besides torture. Came here to say this, man. Imagine being stabbed in the lower abdomen repeatedly, while also shitting your guts out and bleeding. That's usually how the first day is for me. I perforated my colon, which is a medical emergency. Legit thought I was just having an early more crampy than normal period. It was only when I ran a fever that I went eater. Of course one of my higher rated comments is about my colon. I married a woman way out of my league. To this day, I'm baffled that she chose me. I'm convinced it has to do with the time she got period blood on my blankets, and I got her a towel, turned on the shower, put my bedding in the wash, and laid out a fresh blanket for us. TLDR. Ugly men of Reddit. Be cool about menstruation. The return on investment is significant. The importance of outdoor lighting in your neighborhood. I enjoy taking walks alone listening to my podcasts, and I'm only going to do it in an area that's well lit, so I can see everything around me. Sure, I want to look at the trees and neighbors walking their dogs, but I'm also on the lookout for people that might do me harm. That foreplay is important and 30 seconds of foreplay does not cut it. I just did my usual stuff. Snog, diddle, tongue, diddle, front, behind, cuddle, the set menu. That going pee on the side of a hiking trail is not a simple task. I can't just whip it out. As a lady who was basically raised in horse barns, learning how to properly squat to pee in an open area was a great life skill. Find them. Keep your secrets. We don't know how to raise/take care of children. We try hard and learn as we go, and sometimes we get it wrong. If we can try, so can you. Also that no, not all of us want to be mothers. As a first-time father to a 9-month-old daughter, it's actually embarrassing how effing low the bar is to be considered a good dad. For example, I work 3 o'clock to 11:30 from home. My wife works from 7 o'clock to 3 o'clock not at home, and is usually home by 3:15. As a result of our genuinely extremely lucky schedule, I watch my daughter all day every day until she gets home. I feed her, clean her, make sure she's safe. You know all the shitty parent should be expected to do. for 6 months now, since my wife went back to work. Nearly every time I go to the grocery store, obviously with my daughter, a stranger makes a comment along the lines of, "Is daddy giving mommy a break today?" And I know it's not meant with ill will, but it so badly makes me want to just yell that I'm just being a refine parent. I also have friends/relatives that ask why we don't send her to daycare while mom works. Maybe because I'm an able-bodied person that can take care of my own daughter alone. Not to mention we save a ton on daycare costs. I've had numerous men say like, "I just couldn't handle that every day." But why the F not? Why do dads just have a built-in excuse to be absent? Got in a debate with my brother-in-law about this. He thought women are more naturally born with an instinct to know what's wrong with your child and how to fix it. I tried telling him it's less of an instinct born with, but one taught from very young. Playing with dolls, and us moms know just as much as a dad does when the first baby is born. If dads paid as much attention to the baby's schedule and everything they did and ate, they would understand their baby really well too. And even then, moms don't know what's wrong 80% of the time. We are guessing and trying different things. The prolonged and sometimes agonizing cramps that we get when we are on our period. My brother calls me a drama queen for fainting a few times, struggling to breathe, getting lightheaded, and then I found a YouTube video of boys simulating that same cramping sensation and all of them came out if saying that they never knew it was that bad. I sent him the link, but I'm almost positive that he didn't watch it. Here is the video if anyone is interested. That sex duration doesn't matter if I don't come. So, a full 2 minutes. The feeling of having a pad stuck between your legs, hot and bloody and sweaty, and having it on during a 12-hour shifts at a warehouse, only changing between your breaks, and whenever you get the chance to have a pee break because your job is based on production. Ugh yes, and if you sit down you are afraid of leaving a stain. When you stand up you feel the flow coming out of you. If you sneeze OMG, and getting confused if the warm, wet feeling is sweat or blood. I'm so paranoid during those days. Have had a couple of incidents. As a man, I never question period related stuff. It's a matter of faith. Honestly yeah, I manage a few women, and when they tell me they need to pee I don't question it, no matter how many times, as long as they aren't taking like 30 minutes to change a pad/tampon I don't care. If I bled into essentially a diaper pad all day, I'd want to change it as often as I could too. I don't understand people who worry about bathroom breaks. People have bodily functions, and women have a very specific bodily function they gotta take care of. Lol, I don't even understand how women function so well. I'm always telling my wife to stay home from work and relax on the couch, and it's hard to convince her that I'm actually happy to take the responsibility for the day, because if my genitals are ever bleeding I ain't doing Good sex starts in our minds. Stimulate that first. Everything else will come easy. Sticks the tongue through the ear to lick the brain. Unprovoked comments about our bodies do not make us feel good. As a girl with big boobs, friends and even relatives comment on it a lot. I try to explain that it embarrasses me, and I'm often met with confusion because it's supposed to be a compliment. Generally as a rule people should avoid commenting on glaring physical qualities. Even if the person likes that physical quality it is probably exhausting to hear comments everywhere they go. Doubly worse if sexual. That we exist on Reddit. Part of why I was glad when they introduced the avatar thingy is less people now just automatically assume everyone on here is a dude, unless specifically mentioned otherwise. That you don't really need or want sex to last all night long. After a while everything just feels overly stimulated. More importantly, that you read the instructions on how to use what you got. Holy sh! I didn't knew it came with instructions. I might have lost mine very early in life then. Mine are all stuck together. Unwanted attention/touching/being followed is not a compliment. I had a man fondle my but as he walked by. I'm talking full on stroking it while I was playing a video game. Another guy in a primer grey color van following me on the streets until I was able to lose him in a neighborhood. Men sending me unwanted DMs on Instagram and Facebook and being all pervy with me, and I'm told I should take it as a compliment and that it's not a big deal by men of various ages, especially since I'm fat and therefore should be grateful for any attention I get. No, men, I'm not grateful. I'm skeeved out and frankly terrified when this happens. how devastating a miscarriage is. I agree. But it isn't just men that don't understand. When I lost my first pregnancy, my mom came over, hugged me and said she didn't understand what I was going through. Then she left. It felt like, because no one could see physical marks on me like in a car accident, I must be fine and everyone just wanted to move on. No one would talk with me about it. I was angry at the world for moving on and acting like nothing happened when I was left emotionally and mentally scarred. A miscarriage is incredibly painful, not just physically but emotionally and mentally. Every year I have to go in for my yearly gynecologist appointment, and every year I have to answer the same questions. How many pregnancies? Of those, how many went to term? Etc. It hurts my heart to answer these same questions every year. It hurts to see that due date roll by. You think how old they would be. What would your family be like if your child was there? The stigma women have to carry for losing their baby. The fear it will happen again. You're not good enough to be a mom. You can't carry a baby to term, so you must not be good enough for your spouse. It goes on and on. I remember when I finally came around to trying to have another baby, went in for my doctor appointment with my spouse. I asked the doctor about what tests we would have to take to make sure we were healthy to try again. She looked at my spouse and asked if he was the father of the baby that we lost, and he said yes. She said he doesn't need any tests. He got you pregnant before, so it isn't his sperm. A woman doctor said that to another woman. No wonder why women carry this pain. The emotional pain never goes away. I'm sorry for you and everyone who has lost a baby. To those who grieve the loss of a baby, your feelings are valid. You are not to blame, and you are strong. That they care more about their penis size than we do. Oh, whoops. I dropped my monster condom that I use for my Magnum darn. I boned a 7 feet tall guy with a penis on the smaller size who swore he needed magnums. It was wrinkling up and falling off. Such a terrible experience. What it's like to have a human being growing and moving inside of you. That I'm not lying when I say I know a fair amount on X subject. They always either try to trip me up, which will happen, I'm not a computer or a professor lol, and laugh, or try to one-up me, mainly older men. Do you know where a mansplainer gets his water? From a well actually. That women are not a monolith and there isn't a singular method to make them go out with you. There is no secret condom. If she's not into you, she's not into you. Take the L and stop bothering me.